Remember the bombings in Sri Lanka, Easter Sunday? There are reports tonight that ISIS may have been involved with training at least one of those bombers. The Wall Street Journal is reporting on video of an ISIS leader that hasn't been seen in 5 years. This is a video of Abu Bakr al Baghdadi praising the Sri Lankan attackers. You should remember that name, by the way. Used to be in the news almost every day, al-Baghdadi, but we thought, or we were told that ISIS was dead or dying, right? So we ask, what gives? Joining us is former Naval Intelligence Officer John Jordan to take us through this. Man, John, did you look at this headline and shake your head like we did, especially what is this, the reintroduction of al-Baghdadi?
I sure did, Rick. I mean, there's a few things here, strange things here to consider. The existence of ISIS is everybody's reason for being in Syria, whether it's Iran, Russia, the United States, or Turkey. So the presence or absence of ISIS is a big deal in terms of the politics and stability of that part of the world. Secondly, we haven't heard from al-Baghdadi in 5 years. And here, 8 days after the Easter attacks, he surfaces with an 18-minute video. Only a few seconds of which was referencing the Easter attacks, but that was audio only. So it looked a lot like, to a lot of experts, that was stuck in at the end, that he was taking credit for and praising the bombers in Sri Lanka. So it looks to me like this is an effort to regain political relevance and get back in the headlines again. And it may serve the interests of all of the countries, or some of the countries, that want to stay in Syria.
I hope our audience doesn't get mad at me for saying this, but it looked like he ate well during the last 5 years, because he looks a lot heavier than he did, at least in the last videos that we saw of him. Do you think he essentially, or they, or it, referring to ISIS, have somehow tried to use this Sri Lanka thing to manipulate their way into the headlines? And if so, did it work? Front page, Wall Street Journal.
Well, first of all, it worked. Front page, Wall Street Journal, and here we are and everybody else talking about this. Consider this. ISIS has had all of their territory taken away. The physical caliphate has been eradicated. Raqqa, the ad hoc capital, is now no longer in their hands. Terrorist groups want to stay relevant. They want to have their message. They want to influence the actions of nations. And the only way you can do that is via the media and to shape public opinion. And it looks like this attack in Sri Lanka, which was carried out by a Sri Lankan group and Sri Lankan nationals. The group was Tawfiq Jamash, and it was carried out by Sri Lankans. And to say this is getting back at the Crusaders in Syria doesn't make a lot of sense when you consider that Sri Lanka is 70% Hindu and only 7% Christian.
And when we think of Islamic aggression, we don't think of India. We don't think of Sri Lanka, which once was called Ceylon. I know there's a movie out there right now, right? Mumbai, apparently very popular, maybe a good movie about the last time that I recall that there was this type of terrorist attack in India.
Absolutely. The politics of South Asia is seldom really fully considered when looking at Muslim issues in general, when we generally consider as if it's only the Arab world, when in fact it is not. Here we have, you have the indigenous politics of Sri Lanka and India, and they have their own take on these problems that are unique to them. And so it's important not to underestimate the local dimension of these attacks, because if you were trying to get back at the Crusaders supposedly in Syria, Sri Lanka is a very strange place to do that.
So if you were to define, if I was to ask you and try to hold you to describing the situation with ISIS right now, how would you characterize them?
ISIS is largely on the ropes, but it's like any dangerous animal. It's got tentacles throughout the world and connections throughout the world. It's metastasized, it's fragmented, and you have its leadership trying to appear bigger and more important than they really are now.
John Jordan, smart man, and we thank you as usual for being our guest and for taking us through this. I'm Rick Sanchez. You found us on YouTube, and that's awesome. But you know what? I'm also live every night at 7 and 8 p.m. Eastern on DirecTV and Dish and cable and satellite, the RT app, and Pluto TV. I'll see you there.